being in a band isn't a jail sentence. It's okay to leave. Any other occupation, you're allowed to come and change your job, but people seem to think, oh my God, they've left the band, it's not going to be the same. Well, the most important thing here is the music. If the music isn't suffering, then it's fine. And I feel with Black Star Riders, that hasn't affected that at all. I think the band just keeps growing with every record.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy, Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes back our old friend Ricky Warwick of Black Star Riders. How are you doing today, Ricky?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Good to see you, Keith.
I am so glad to see you. Happy New Year. And
Happy New Year.
You are one of the busiest, hardest working people in music that I know or that I've ever chatted with. You just seem to have a new thing out all the time and always in promotion mode. But when you're not touring or recording, you are doing one of these. So I appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're welcome.
And of course, we're here to talk about Wrong Side of Paradise, the brand new Black Star Riders album coming soon on your brand new record label, Earache, which I think, people historically know Earache as this gnarly death metal and grindcore record label, but actually their new music that they've put out the last few years has been a lot of great rock records.
Yeah, we had 9 wonderful years on Nuclear Blast, Keith, and they were a great label. And 4 records with them. It's kind of unheard of in this day and age. I think it's been a label for that length of time. But we just reached, with going into the 5th record, the pandemic hitting, I think we just felt both parties felt we'd gone as far as we could. There was some changes, obviously, in our end. There's some changes in their end label-wise. And we just felt it was time for a fresh start. And Earache just jumped straight in. Digby Pearson, the guy that runs the label, is a fantastic person. His energy, his enthusiasm. He's old school, and he just gets it. So it was a no-brainer for us to go with Earache. It really was a very, very easy decision to make.
Fantastic, and I very fortunately, thanks to the lovely folks at the PR, I have gotten to listen to the new record, and it is another banger, of course.
Oh, thank you.
But I really, obviously, you've had some changes in the band over the years, and some new members, as well as some consistent long-time members. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about that for a second and if that affected the song.
Yeah, listen, it's not ideal when anybody leaves, but, we're older guys in a band and it's not easy. And, everybody has different other commitments. And, I always say being in a band isn't a jail sentence. It's okay to leave. Any other occupation, you're allowed to come and change your job, but people seem to think, oh my God, they've left the band, it's not going to be the same. Well, the most important thing here is the music. If the music isn't suffering, then it's fine. And I feel with Black Star Riders, it hasn't affected that at all. I think the band just keeps growing with every record. And the door is always open. Nobody's been ever asked to leave Black Star Riders. Everybody's left, and people have come back. Like Scott's playing with us, next year when we go out and do some shows. So it's just part of life, and you just take it on the chin and you deal with it and you move on.
Did I see that correctly? Scott and Jimmy, right?
Scott and Jimmy are coming back for some 10th anniversary shows that we're doing in the UK just to celebrate 10 years of the band. We're just going to kick that off in about a month's time.
People know what a major Jimmy DeGrasso fan I am, by the way.
Hell of a drummer.
Hell of a guy, hell of a drummer. And of course, Christian brings so much to the table. Christian Martucci, such a wonderful songwriter, guitar player.
Yeah, no, Christian's badass.
He sure is. And by the way, there's your headline, Blabbermouth. Being in a band is not a prison sentence, Ricky Warwick. We're going to go with that. And that's your hashtag. I love it so much.
Thank you.
For you as a prolific songwriter and a person, like I said, at the top that works all the time, when you sit down to make music, do you just write songs and this is appropriate for Ricky solo, this is something else, this is Black Star Riders? How do you divide that?
It's pretty much as simple as that, Keith, really. And you just get a feeling for what's going to work, with Black Star Riders or with myself. I mean, I'll be writing something I can sort of go, okay, I can hear, the guys in BSR, playing on this and killing it and taking it to a whole new level. So I'll send that one to the guys. And then you just be, and vice versa. You kind of go, well, maybe this is one I'm going to keep for myself. And there's a few that cross the line. There's a few that you're kind of going, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a couple on the new album that I was hesitant about sending to the guys. I'm glad I did, but that happens. But that's a good situation to be in. And I don't think the quality it's not like I'm turning up to Black Star Riders and going, well, I've used all my best ideas on my solo records. That's not the case, and the guys know that as well. So the quality isn't suffering, and that's the main thing.
Right on. I appreciate that. And then also, just lyrically, do you ever, is the stuff for your solo material? Because that record, I feel from like that last solo record was so deep and
right,
just very much a grown man in
sure.
Reflecting on life. And then this record's a little more fist in the face and a little more I don't want to say angry, but a little more actionable.
Yeah, you tend to sort of concentrate more, I guess, on the very personal stuff when you're writing the solo stuff. That just kind of goes with the territory. And when it comes to Black Star Riders, I sort of throw it open a bit more to sort of worldwide events and what's going on and our opinions on that, really.
And especially that, we'll talk about the tracks in a second, but just in general, I feel like that's a theme running through the whole new album for BSR, is this like the world is shambles.
Yeah.
You can only laugh,
You can only laugh, because if you don't, you'll cry. I think the world's always been in a shambles, but I think we just hear about it a lot more now.
Right. The availability of information is overwhelming. And even for me, a person in media, I'm getting a little to my limit. I will say this record has given me a bit of a lift. It's been a rough week. We lost Jeff Beck this week as we chat today. And I will say that some of the sunnier moments on this record have really helped my
Thank you. Well, I always try to be, I can write about a negative subject, but I always try and be as positive as I can about it, because at the end of the day, we're here to entertain, and we're here to take people out of banality and mediocrity and maybe they're not having a good day. And I think you need to give them something to cling on to. And for me, it should be uplifting. So I think you can sing about something that's negative, but you can also try and do that in a positive way.
I dig it. I like it. Let's jump into the track by track, since time is of the essence. And
no problem.
Wrong Side of Paradise kicks off with the title track appropriately.
Yeah. I mean, that's I love the riff in this. It's got a great guitar riff, even though I say so myself. And it's going to be a fun one to play live. There's no doubt about that. And lyrically, it's just really, I grew up in Northern Ireland in the 70s and 80s. During the troubles over there, and there was a lot of barricades and walls separating communities and dividing people. And as a kid, I was always like, well, why is there a wall in the middle of our street? What's on the other side of it? Are they different than us? Is it better over there? It's just kind of fascinating, not really grasping the sort of horrific consequences of it till I was obviously older. And I just feel that we're in a society now, we're all about building bridges and walls and dividing people and keeping people living in fear and segregated. And, we should be building bridges. We should be bringing people together, and sadly we're not. And it's just, people are working 2-3 jobs just to pay the bills. And that's it, nothing else. And it's just that banging your head against that brick wall, trying to get a little ray of sunshine, something a bit more that I think we deserve as a species. And I think, our politicians and people in power are lying to us and, dumbing us down and ripping us off and keeping us sick and keeping us, in a state of confusion. And I think that's really what the essence of Wrong Side of Paradise.
Well said. Not just the song, but the whole album.
Thank you.
Hustle is the second track, and appropriately so.
Yeah, that's quite a positive one. I get to play harmonica on this, which is kind of cool, because I've never really played harmonica on an album before, so that was a bit of a trip for me to do that. I love this because it's kind of got a Bowie-esque glam rock kind of feel to it. This one, and basically it's self-explanatory. It's about singing really about a friend of mine that is very talented, extremely talented, but is expecting the world to come knocking on his door and can't really understand why it's not. And it's that whole thing of going, why don't you go out there and you start knocking on some doors and show people how great you are, because it's not going to come a call in, and it's just really dealing with that. And it's the kind of the poor me, frustrated artist kind of thing that wears a bit thin with me. It's like, well, you don't want to be a musician, you don't want to be an artist. Guess what? Don't be one. don't moan about it, you know, don't go do something else. So there's a little bit of that going on in the lyrics.
Awesome. As a great person once said, the poor me leads to the poor me's. And
well, that's it, you know. And it's
help.
the whole thing. Everyone's an artist till the rent's due as well, you know, right?
So true, so true. The third track is Better Than Saturday Night.
Yeah, probably one of the most uplifting songs on the album. I just wanted to write. That was one of the last ones I wrote going into the record. I wrote that the week we actually started recording, which was October of last year. So that was just came to me, and I demoed it and sent it to the guys, and thankfully they loved it. And Jay Rustin, our producer, loved it and made the record. I just wanted to write something positive and lifting. I just saw what we'd all been through pandemic wise. I saw what my kids had gone through and how their lives were disrupted, and I just wanted to give something positive going. It's going to be okay, and just, you know, stay strong and keep thinking positively, and you know, we'll get through this.
Right on. And I've always known that you are an albums guy first and foremost. So I love that sequencing of the tracks matter.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Riding Out the Storm, one of my favorite tracks on the album, is the fourth track.
Well, that's one of the ones I said to you I nearly didn't give to the guys because it's a little bit different for Black Star Riders. And I thought, yeah, maybe this is definitely a Ricky Warwick song for one of the solo records. But I sort of acquiesced and sent it to Robbie and to Christian, and they loved it, and I was like, okay, well, that's good enough for me, and we worked on it, and that's really about getting older and dealing with your own mortality. I lost my parents the last sort of 5 years. I lost some good friends. You know, the road behind us is a lot longer than the road that's ahead of me now. And just coming to terms with, you know, where you're at in life and reevaluating it, and just you know, having a take on that, really.
Well done, and I'm sorry for your losses. We've all lost so much.
Oh, thank you.
For few years, all of us.
Of course. Yeah.
We're not immune. We also had some losses here.
No, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, everybody's.
Our staff, it's been brutal. The next track is Pay Dirt.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great story behind this. Christian played me this, and Christian had written this with the late Todd Youth. You know, we all know Todd Youth. He was I think New York hardcore pioneers. He was in Murphy's Law, and I think he played like Agnostic Front for a while. Then he was in Chelsea Smiles with Christian. Great guitar player, sadly no longer with us, just talking a loss. And they had this kicking around for a while, and he's like, we could never really get a lyric, and he played it to me, and I was like, this is awesome. This has got such energy and attitude and a real MC5 kind of feel to it. And I was like, I'd be honored to write some lyrics to this, because I'm almost hearing them straight away while I'm listening to it, you know. And it's just really a celebration of rock and roll, but it's also pointing the finger that people that are relying a little bit too much on technology and the auto tune and dialing it in and not playing from the heart and not playing from the gut, and the pretentious rock and rollers, the ones that, you know, the posers that are out there, and it's just kind of going, man, we can see right through you, you know, you're not the real deal. And it's a little bit of my own reflection. There's a line in there, my heart belongs to Belfast, but my soul belongs to Glasgow. And those are the two cities that I was brought up in, and where I cut my teeth on rock and roll. And there's so many great bands came out of those cities, and the influence that it had on me. And it's like a call to arms, like, you know, hey, all you rock and rollers, what you going to do when there's no more smoke and mirrors? It's like a double entendre there. What are you going to do when you can't get away with actually people find out you haven't practiced, you haven't put the time in, you can't really play, you're using backing tapes or whatever. And, you know, smoke and mirrors, you know, could be a drug reference too. You know, you'd rather get elegantly wasted than, you know, write a great song. Don't get it back to front. You know what I mean?
Right on. And shout out and rest in peace to Todd. One of my favorite interviews ever was with Todd, and he, again, a songwriter, a guitar player.
Absolutely. Yeah, wonderful. Great talent.
Catch Yourself On is the next track.
Yeah, Catch Yourself On is a very Northern Irish expression. And so if you said to somebody, catch yourself on, it would mean sort of wise up. It would mean, come on, you know, really, you know, stop being silly. You know, it's really just, really, you know, come on, get it together. That's really what it means. And it's just, and I'm guilty of this as much as the next person. It's the living your life through the phone, social media. You know, we've all been to concerts now where, and I was at one recently where somebody held up an iPad the entire concert and watched the concert while recording it through the iPad. Not for, you know, a minute and a half of a song, but the whole friggin' concert. And you're just like, what are you doing? What's what point of this makes any sense to you? And, seeing it with my own kids, it's taken over our lives and we're just a slave to it now. People are putting stuff up on social media that they should never be putting up on social media about their private lives, about what's going on to complete strangers and putting it out there. Pictures of people's dinners, what they had for breakfast that morning. It's like, come on. It's like, stop, enough. But it's only going to get worse. So, that's really what it's about.
Fair enough. And no notes. Perfect. Crazy Horses is next, another banger track that I love.
Yeah, first cover version that Black Star Riders have done in 10 years. And probably an unusual one for a lot of people. Maybe wouldn't have expected it. But the Osmonds, that song is just a phenomenal hard rock song. From when I first heard it when I was a kid, I always one day wanted to cover it, and was able to talk the guys in Black Star Riders into doing it. Actually, I didn't have to talk to them. They loved it as well. And it's just a great jam. And it was really, really, we tried it in the studio. It sounded great, and it made the record.
Right on. The bones of a good song can work for any genre if you do it right.
Exactly. Agreed.
Right on. Burning Rome is next.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites on the record, actually. I wrote this on acoustic guitar. I write a lot on acoustic guitar, pretty much everything. Just one of these songs that came together really quickly, and I wrote a little bit of fiction in this. So there is some truth in the lyrics, but I kind of embellished it a little bit into more of a story about a guy that's been forced to leave his hometown for various reasons and being away, and then decided enough is enough. I'm going to come back, face my fears, face the people that made me leave, and put it to rights and sort it out. And I'm going to come home, and you can't. This is where I'm from, and how dare you sort of banish me? I'm going to come back, and I'm going to fix it, because and that's really what it's about.
Right on. Don't Let the World Get in the Way is next.
Yeah, again, that's a big fan. I mean, I write about running away so much, and I've always been running my whole life, and I don't know where I'm going. And I don't even know what I'd do if I get there, if that makes any sense. And I think this putting myself into the characters of the song about a couple of middle-class kids just wanted to get out and experience some danger and some thrills, but scared shitless of doing it at the same time. And I think that's really the thing behind the song. It's just, it's not okay. It's not okay to settle for being okay. We deserve better than that. I think that's really the essence of it.
Green and Troubled Land is next.
Yeah, this is co-written with a really good friend of mine from Belfast called Sam Robinson, who I've written a lot with on my solo records. Sam and I grew up together. We're from the same part of Belfast. And there's an ancient kingdom in the northeast of Ireland called Dalriada, which is so if you look at a map of Scotland and Northern Ireland, you see the west of Scotland is very, very close to Northern Ireland. There's only 12 miles of water separates them. And that kingdom was part of northeast Northern Ireland, and southwest Scotland was known as Dalriada. It was an ancient kingdom ruled over by chieftains, clans back in the day. And they were always beating the shit out of each other. And it's taking that sort of ethos and bringing it up into modern day Ireland now, where things are obviously a lot better. But there's still pockets of people that want to drag the country back into the dark ages and can't let go of the past, and seem to think that violence, intimidation, and bigotry and hatred is the way forward, because we never learn as a species. And so it's a little bit about what a great country it is and how great the people are, but we still have these pockets of idiots that want to, tarnish it, for want of a better expression. So that's really the story behind the song.
As you now live in America, you also can appreciate that Americans will find a lot to relate to in this song.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing what this country has come to and where.
Well, I as a kid growing up, it's very interesting, said Keith, growing up in Ireland, American culture is so big in Ireland, and TV shows and obviously music and everything. Country music's massive in Ireland, and so we're very influenced by it. And America was always very shiny and sparkly to me, and I always wanted to live there. And it was always it was like a different planet. It was just amazing, and everything was bigger. The cars were bigger, the buildings were bigger, the music sounded bigger, the people were big. It was like, this is amazing. And when I moved here, it was shiny and sparkly, and I loved it, because people didn't care what religion you were. They didn't care what politics you were. They don't anymore. and it's not sparkly and shiny anymore. And it makes me really, really sad that, you know, that America has come to that, because it just, you know, of course there's always little bits of, I'm sure, that wear it, but I just feel that as a country, it's lost something in the last few years that it shouldn't have, that made it special to me. This is me personally speaking, you know? So yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yeah.
I agree. This Life Will Be the Death of Me is track 11.
Yeah, again, that was written the week prior to the album. I got into a bit of a groove. Usually have a panic before we make a record. I kind of go, "Oh, have we got enough songs? Are these songs good enough? Oh no," you know. And we had like 15 written. I was like, "No, I better write some more." And I'm glad I did, because usually I end up writing, you know, a couple of bangers before we go in for whatever reason. I mean, one case in point was Another State of Grace. Underneath the Afterglow was one that Scott and I had written literally the night before we started recording. So this Life Will Be a Death of Me was one of those, and I had the line, "We all bleed the same," and I wanted to use that, and I wanted to get a soul Motowny feel on the track. And Robbie Crane and Zach St. John did that on the rhythm section. They played their asses off on that track, as he did on the whole album. But I love the groove of it. I love the soulful feel of it. And, you know, again, it's about divisions. You know, we all bleed the same. We do, you know, that you cut us, we all bleed the same. And there's a tagline at the end of it is, you know, divided we stand, united we fall, which is flipping that saying round, because, you know, we keep, you know, dividing ourselves. But at the end of the day, when we're all dead and buried, doesn't matter. You know, we're all the same, you know.
Right on. I don't know if you mind sharing some thoughts on the bonus tracks. I got to hear them, so
sure.
I figured we'll just count them as part of the record for this purpose.
Let's do it.
Inspire some people to buy the bonus versions.
Yeah.
The many great versions that are coming out. Cut and Run is track 12 on the bonus version.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed to say that's me trying to rip off "You Got Another Thing Coming" by Judas Priest. I love that song so much, and I just was like, you know, wanted to get a vibe, because that's a great pop heavy metal song, and I love it. I wanted to get that vibe and feel on it, and again, Cut and Run is about just, you know, cutting ties and getting out there and being true to yourself, basically.
Nice. And then the final track on the bonus version is Suspicious Times.
Yeah, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. There's so much misinformation flying around out there right now, you know, everywhere, and it's hard to believe what's true and what isn't. People just seem to think it's okay to lie blatantly and then lie about the lies now, and people just accept it, and it's crazy. It just does my head in. So there's that.
There you go. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
With us. As we wrap this up and I let you get on with the rest of your day, obviously we have this record coming out, these incredible editions, many vinyl variants, all these things, and a lot of touring. What else is coming up for you besides that in 23?
Just working on you know, Black Star Riders, touring as much as we can and promoting the new album as much as possible. There's rumors of possibly some Thin Lizzy show, so I'm waiting to see if that's going to happen. That would be obviously awesome if that's the case. And, you know, just to stay busy, Keith. Keep working.
I don't know if it was, of course. I don't know if it was you or someone else, but I saw a hint about the Almighty. I hope it's true. I saw a tease.
All I can say is hashtag never say never.
All right. I love it. Please, let's have that happen. I would love that so much. Ricky Warwick,
awesome.
Lovely to see you. Lovely to chat with you again, my friend. And we'll do it again next time in person, shoulder to shoulder.
Definitely.
Like
you got it, man. Thanks for the support, Keith.